All right, let's talk about the 2018 iPad Pro 256 gig in sexy space gray. Because everything I get is in sexy space gray. But, all right, so the experience of the iPad began when I realized I needed to replace my aging XPS 14Z laptop. Thought maybe this time we'd go with a MacBook Pro. So I had ordered a 15-inch MacBook Pro, 6 core, 16 gigs of RAM, 2.2 Intel processor. Got here, my initial impressions were it looked cool. The laptop is obviously made very well. Things I didn't like right off the bat were the keyboard was so flat it was hard to feel where the home keys were. And as a blind computer user, if you can't feel where the home keys are, it's kind of hard to use your keyboard. And the touchpad was pretty big, so in order to find the keyboard, I'd end up moving my cursor all over the place. So some settings later, I adjusted it. I could kind of make do with it. The touch bar was okay, kind of interesting. I would have preferred an escape key to the touch escape. The fingerprint scanner was cool, so you could address Siri, because I use Siri quite a bit. So being able to wake her up quickly was a bonus. The laptop turned on instantly. That was cool. The operating system I liked. It was fairly streamlined. The key commands to use Voiceover, the screen reader, were a little bit more complicated in terms of the number of fingers you needed to navigate and interact with things. So I had to adjusted a lot of settings to do quick keys and things like that. Still not as smooth as what I'm used to on PC using JAWS, but that's just a learning curve. The things that I couldn't get around though were the keyboard and the heat, which up near the where the screen hinged onto the laptop, that thing got hot. And if anything I know about electronics, heat and them typically don't agree over long time duration. So it's just meaning your computer's wearing itself out, and you can't fix any of this stuff, so you're stuck with it. The port selection was good on it, not bad. But ultimately, it just wasn't worth the money I paid for it, which was around $3,000 with the Apple Care that I got. It was a little bit over $3,000, and I just didn't think I was going to get a $3,000 experience out of laptop. I also realized that I liked the touchscreen aspect of my iPhone. I've had 5 or 6 different generation iPhones, and I like the iOS operating system. It's fairly intuitive, and I was kind of hoping the MacBook was going to be a similar experience. So when I realized I essentially wanted a touchscreen MacBook Pro, and that thing doesn't exist, I thought, well, they're never going to make a portable iMac, or will they? But a touchscreen is essentially part of the reason I like iOS, because of the gesture control and how you can move through all your apps with your finger. I thought maybe an iPad, and just as I was thinking this, the new iPads were announced. More like a computer than ever! So, with the USB-C port, here we are looking at the 12.9-inch iPad with the included smart keyboard folio. My initial impressions of the smart keyboard folio, which arrived first. I had no iPad to put in it, so they arrived separately. I was initially, so if you can see this right here, I'm going to unfold the iPad. I'm going to drop it down.
12:07 p.m.
The back of it, it's just this magnetic, what looks like a binder that folds about 2/3 of the way down. It's got these little, you can see there, where did they go? There's little dots somewhere on this that must transfer power. Maybe it's on the other side. So my initial impressions were, it's small. This the folio I'm talking about. So it's thin. It looks like plastic and a binder material. It does not have any corner protection whatsoever on this. It's got the hinge, which protects the side. It covers the full back, but if you ever drop this, this case would do nothing if you dropped it on an edge. So I was a little disappointed for the $200 that this cost. That it really isn't that, I guess, protective of a case. The keyboard, however, has more tactile feel than the iPad Pro. So you can actually, the MacBook Pro. So you can find these home keys much easier. They're a little bit more raised. There's definitely more definition in between each key. So that I liked better. No hotkeys or quick keys above the number row. The main reason I am going to get rid of this smart portfolio is the lack of hotkeys. Like I said, I use Siri a lot. There's no way to, unless I use a key command, there's no quick button to just push it to activate it. And since we have a lack of touch or fingerprint sensor, there's no more activating Siri without having to say her name. I'd like to not have to say her name because every iDevice or Apple device in this room simultaneously, or they trade off who's going to answer or activate, which I don't always want it to do. I just want the thing I'm working on to be the actual activated device. So with no hotkeys, this is literally just a keyboard. There are some key combinations that are possible. So a lot of this might be learning curve in how I'm using it. There might be more key commands that I could use. However, I purchased a Logitech I believe it's a K481. I believe it's a Logitech K481 Bluetooth keyboard. Here it is, if you can see this. This works considerably better. I don't know if this is in frame. This is I think I paid $27 for this, what looks like a toy-ish type Bluetooth keyboard. It's got the switch on the side that allows you to change between multiple devices. It's got this huge row of hotkeys on top, which I have marked with Velcro. So I know, 1, 4, that kind of stuff. I can tell where it is quickly. Like I've got the volume up, I've got the play. Basic key functions that I use all the time. So it makes this keyboard way more functional than the $200 folio case. And since the folio case doesn't protect anything but really the screen and the back, I don't feel like $200 is what this should have cost. It's not looking like a super durable case. The magnet is super cool. I love how it attaches when it's in the... Try again. And so it's locked me out. So when I have to when I have to take the iPad out, it's actually pretty magnetically stuck in there. Like, it's pretty strong. It's not coming out unless you pull it. So that's cool. All right, so that's going back. And my initial impression of the iPad Pro was it was fast. I miss the home button. As like I said, continuous user of Siri and or using the home button to get home and switch apps, I now have to use the swipe up from the bottom motion, which isn't even opening. So what do I got? So this has been part of the problem with the experience with this was I'm going to push the unlock button at the top.
12. Try again.
Try again. Isn't this supposed to just unlock when it sees my face?
Locked.
Isn't that the point?
Enter passcode.
Enter passcode.
Locked. Quick nav off.
So, as you can tell, Face ID doesn't like my face. And I'm not sure if that's because I'm blind and have no pupils, because they're fogged over. My corneas are fogged over. So I'm not sure if Face ID is a hard time with me because my eyes are different. I wouldn't think... I wouldn't think my
12:13 p.m. 12 quick nod
I
off.
wouldn't think my face would be that unrecognizable otherwise. Bone structure wise, it scans how many different points. So, let me see if I turn this, I get my face in it.
12:13 p.m.
Are you unlocked? This thing.
FaceTime iTunes Store. Double tap to
Okay,
open.
so it got me in. All right, so this took way longer to get into than if I just touch the thing with my thumb and it scans it and it opens. And granted, that's not perfect either. That can be a royal pain in the butt.
Quick nav on. App Store. Double tap to open.
So, right off the bat, I've had a harder time accessing Siri, getting home, switching apps, because I have to do the swipe from the bottom.
App switcher has no items. App switcher. Dock.
Which
messages. Double tap to
sometimes works and
open.
sometimes doesn't.
Double tap to open.
So I've had mixed results with this. The sound quality's been good. It's by no means a sound experience. None of these laptop or iPad speakers are in any way a sound experience. They sound good for the size that they are, but this isn't hi-fi. This is glorified phone speakers. They get the job done, but I wouldn't expect to do anything with them other than watch Netflix. And even then, you're missing out on all of the bass and low end. It's close to having what you would consider good bass, but I wouldn't call it. This is a theater experience. Now, I thought, as a blind person, obviously, why do you need a giant screen? Few reasons. I thought that for apps like GarageBand, it would allow me to have more on the screen and more space in between things like, if you wanted to play a keyboard, even though touch keyboards are incredibly unpredictable and unreliable, I thought in terms of spacing, it'd give me more space, which it did. It's not a
FaceTime,
let's see if
calendar,
I can find
photo,
it.
camera, contact, clock, maps, home, notes, reminder, iTunes, App Store.
So I'm
Books,
using the
double tap,
keyboard
settings, page 2, dock, messages, Safari,
to navigate.
music, mail, files, suggestion, Apple Store, GarageBand, 11 new. My songs, button. Instruments and live, perform, dim, mixer, button. Lock, button. Repeater, button.
So I'm looking at GarageBand here.
SoCal, starting at Liverpool track, 0 regions, actions available. Liverpool track, 0 regions, actions available.
0 regions. Part of this is I don't use GarageBand a ton. I was hoping to get
Instruments and live, input mixer, button.
a little more out of
Instruments
this.
and live, loops, button. Instrument 6 of 11, bass, tap string, bass, button. Instrument 7 of 11, guitar.
I've used it on my
piano,
phone.
guitar by
I have
Dongles,
an
or tap with bending notes.
iRig Pro interface, which is a lightning connector. This is a USB-C connector, so I can't use any of my MIDI instruments or MIDI instruments, keyboards or controllers.
Page 7 of 11, adjustable.
Because I don't have the correct power cable to interface with the iRig Pro Duo, I believe is what it's called, and the iPad. So I'd need to either find a new adapter, which I haven't found yet. I didn't even know if they were making one. So changing the port hasn't really done me any good since I don't use an external camera. I use my iPhone as a camera. I was hoping to have a lightning port for power and an extra port like on a laptop, which could have been USB-C for a peripheral like a hard drive, which apparently you won't access. So it kind of makes this another adapter experience. They made me change from lightning or from the original iPhone to lightning, and then they took away the headphone jack. So it's just been a lot of dongle changes, whereas I would still use regular headphones. I do like the AirPods, but it would be nice to be able to hear mixes in actual headphones, not Bluetooth. Which, I mean, I can plug in the lightning port, but you can't plug in power and headphones simultaneously. Yada, yada, yada. It's just been adapters after adapters. So, overall, GarageBand's interesting. I would have liked to have tried it with an actual MIDI keyboard to see how it works. Let's click on guitar.
Dark matter mixer, track 1, mute button. Autoplay off, adjustable. Acoustic track, 0 regions, actions available.
So as you can tell,
Autoplay.
Touching it
Acoustic track.
Doesn't. It's not consistently useful.
App switcher, GarageBand.
And I just activated the app switcher by swiping around trying to use
Close
GarageBand.
Close GarageBand. GarageBand. Activate. Default. GarageBand.
So the gesture-based control stuff can get in the way of someone like me who wants to touch around the screen. Overall, I would say it's cool. I like the look of the iPad. It reminds me very much of the square edges on the iPhone 4S. It just kind of looks like a thinner, larger version of that. I didn't really mind the previous generation's bezels. It wasn't like a huge problem. Overall, I don't think this can replace my laptop. It's got the power to do it, but the way that the touch gestures work with this keyboard, it makes it slightly slower of an experience. It's not terrible. I could learn how to use this better in every way if this was my only machine. The internet works fine. What else works fine on this? Let's see. So getting used to app switcher. Okay, so that took me back to the home screen.
Clock, 12:20 p.m.
I like the integration iOS has with other devices. I like how everything connects and you can see messages on one device from another device. Pretty cool. I got the 256 gig version of this because I store things in the cloud. I don't need to put a ton of files into the iPad permanently.
12:21 p.m.
What else did I like about this thing?
Photos.
It's thin.
Tap to open. Camera.
That's cool. It's definitely heavy. You're not going to hold this with one hand. It's pretty big. Holds battery pretty well so far. I mean, but Apple's batteries, I don't know. Sometimes it seems like they fade pretty quick. My iPhone 8 from last year is already at like 90% efficiency. They're all different. I get it. All batteries. But I don't know if that's good, but that seems like that's a pretty fast slip from close to 100% efficiency. I'm not really a battery specialist. I don't know what I'm talking about. So overall, I'd give this thing maybe a B minus. I think it's cool, but I don't think it's worth the $1,400 plus $200 or whatever it was for the Apple Care. It's $200 for the keyboard case, and I believe $1,400 for the Wi-Fi cellular. That could be $1,400. I might be mixing these all up. It was around $1,500, let's just say. I don't think I'm going to get a $1,500 experience out of this. I think my phone, is what I realized, is in some ways easier to use with one hand. You don't have to hold it in any specific way. Like, I've been using my thumbs more for this than my fingers. So it's going back. That's the ultimate idea. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me on YouTube, and I will be making future videos on the Apple Watch 4. Stay tuned. Thanks, guys.